Really good workout. Thank you.
You're going to feel it tomorrow, hopefully.
I will. Maybe even
Or
later today.
maybe not because she wore B3 bands.
I did, which was a great experiment. Thank you.
This is the first time you're wearing B3 bands,
Yes,
isn't it?
It was great, and when I took them off, I felt light as a feather.
Well, that is really good.
And swole.
And swole.
That's
And that was on your
To
legs,
have
which are
those-
kind of hard to
yeah,
do.
To have swole and light as a feather at the same time, that's pretty hard to come
Yeah.
I know. I can't wait for you, Suzanne, to bring those B3 bands in June 29th to the Mr. Miss USA here in Fairview in Texas. It's going to be great. I've worn those B3 bands as well, and I really did notice a difference, especially when you wear them over a period of time too. Mm-hmm. That changes everything. And it means also that workout doesn't have to be as intense as, well, take that back. Workouts are always intense.
Yeah.
Intentional workouts.
Well,
right?
it is an intentional workout, and it becomes intense because you're aided by those bands. So it's not like you've got to overextend or go that extra heavy because the bands are helping you gain a little bit more of, 5 pounds will seem like 10 or 15. So that's a great thing because you won't hurt yourself, and that's what's important.
Right. Well, and honestly, some days you just really don't have this. You don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, I was like, it's back day. I don't feel it. I'm doing 3 exercises in my cardio, and I'm out of here. So while the intensity is there, it varies per day. So
right,
the bands
absolutely.
were super helpful where I didn't have to completely load up and feel it in my knees or any of that. So thank you for that.
So,
100%.
Yeah, the great things about blood flow restriction training is you're not tearing muscles, so you recover quicker. You're likely getting a deeper deprivation of oxygen, which is going to release nitric oxide and growth hormone, which is our anti-aging, our pain relief. Yay!
Well, and when you're in a sport like this, when you're doing it day in and day out, it's not like you're working out once and then that's it. But you need that recovery because you're coming back for more, whether that be more punishment, or the goal is to get toner, to get bigger, whatever it is, it's a continuation. And the other thing too is that the body gets so used to whatever training you do. Our bodies are really incredible in terms of adapting to what we give it. So it's really nice to bring in some extra little things from out there just to sort of confuse and say, hey, what are you doing to me? Okay, I've got to learn and respond to this too.
Absolutely.
Yes. Perfect. So you are getting ready for, this is your number competition, 3rd, 4th, 5th?
Oh, number of competition.
Working with Monica.
So this will be my 3rd season
right.
working with Monica. So 3 years, that's pretty crazy, right?
I know.
So this will be my first official, I don't like the term off season because it's not really off. And actually, in my humble opinion, the off season is very difficult because it's so much balance to learn.
Right.
And not just in the gym, mostly out of the gym.
Right. In the kitchen.
So in the kitchen, socially,
Yeah.
mentally, you've got to also be okay with looking different than how you do on stage. And I admire people who look the part all year long. But through the years, I recently had a friend of mine, one of my best friends, I've known her since 4th grade. She got together with some friends and she's like, I showed some of your competition pictures, which was very kind and very sweet. And she said, well, we decided you're the most fit at our age. I said, well, but I don't carry that body with me throughout the entire year.
Right.
And that's what off season or transformation season kind of teaches you, because you've got to, and I only know this because of this amazing woman here who has been through it.
Right.
And who took the time to learn herself before she ever coached anybody. Because this is, and I don't coach anybody for competition because I don't take it lightly. I feel like it's a little bit of messing with people's lives if you send them down a path that they're not meant to go on.
Right.
Because there's a dangerous path to this as well. And so the off season and the transformation season to me is where you really learn that balance, and it's hard. It is hard, especially socially, because you're pulled, and at 48 you have to also do life.
Yes.
Versus when you're 25 or 22, or you have life, but it's totally different. It might, and so, I have mad respect for people who work full time and still make it to the gym 6 days a week and have kids and do it all. So yeah, so in our third season together, Monica's been very influential for my off season. As much as she is in season, the off season is probably the one I put her through the ringer. So
I mean, there's a very special relationship, you know, and for I think anybody who's out there who's either considering competing, or whether they want to do it on their own, or they think they can just Google up what it's like to bodybuild and do a season, or actively searching or looking for a coach. You know, you went the very serious route there just now, but it is so true what you were saying.
Absolutely.
Do your research and find out. And when I do talk to people, one of the first things when I send them an email about information or whatever, I said, well, let's find out if we're a good fit. You have to be a good fit with whoever your
100%.
coach is, because it becomes teamwork, but not just team between you and that other person, but now their family is part of the team as well, because it doesn't just extend to the individual. Their spouse has to be on board. Their children have to be supportive or be on board, because there's a lot to it. And what you're saying about life happening, 100%. For some, they just think, okay, bodybuilding, the rest of the world doesn't exist, and that's great, but that's sort of a fairy tale world. And I was just, you know, seeing online, a couple of people are saying, hey, if you think bodybuilding, and I'm not talking just natural, because we do natural, there's a lot less money involved in the naturals than in the non, but even in the non, this is not something you get into if you think, oh, I'm gonna make money, or no, you're pouring out constantly the type of food, the posing, the coaching, when you get into competition, all the things that you need, the suit, the hair, the makeup, the actual registration, the membership fees, all that costs. So if your family and others aren't on board with it, it's not gonna happen, and you can't put them through hell. You can do whatever you want to yourself, and I shouldn't even say that, because it's not. The first year can be difficult. I have found over the many years that I've competed, it has gotten easier for me, because I've incorporated it into my life and my
Becomes
lifestyle.
a habit.
It becomes a habit, it becomes a lifestyle. I don't let it rule me. I say, okay, this is my serious hobby, but all these other things are happening around me, so how can I be the best person I can be on stage at that show, irrespective of all the things that have happened to me? Could, at that time for that prep, could I have been better? Sure, I could have. But based on the circumstances and what I was dealing with, I gave it my 100% to be my 100% at this specific time on stage. And for those who are new or just coming into the sport, that first competition, that first season, it's about finding what is that foundation, what is that starting point. So it's not about looking at, oh, I want to be like so-and-so and I want to look like so-and-so. Let's see where you can get with the best nutrition, with the best workouts. Mindset is a huge side of that as well. And once you do your first show, now you have somebody to compare yourself to and to compete against, not anyone else. And we had even last year, one particular athlete that's coming into mind that literally decided 6 or 7 weeks before a show that she wanted to compete. And I mean, very, very dedicated. And she did everything possible she could. There's nothing else she could have done. And she came in at her very best for her first show. Now, the way she looked, and it was going to be a one and done, and she decided after that, because I said, oh my gosh, with the kind of physique you have, there's a lot of work to be done, but you are gifted and you just need to stay at it. And she was pretty disappointed with her first show. By the end of the year, she had earned a pro card in a division. She had completely transformed herself, and I think she started to realize, oh, now I'm starting to get it. So you need that time to, and so she's coming back this year.
Awesome.
And I can't wait to see, you know, all the amazing things that she brings to the stage as well. But we grow with it, and it happens over a period of time.
Absolutely. And do you find that you try different categories each time, or?
Yes. Well, that's a yes and no. So when you come into the sport, and I know Nicki will be able to talk to that too. When I first did, for me it was, okay, I was in it consecutively for 10 years. Now, if you're going to do the same category, the same show for 10 years, that would be the most boring thing in the world. Everything is fun a first time, or maybe a second time to see how you compare to what you did the first. But you've got to evolve, you've got to change. So for me, it was always and figuring out, okay, this year I'm going to specifically work on my back, or I want to specifically tighten those glutes or increase the shoulders, or whatever that may be. Started off in a specific category, went from maybe, because I started later on, so I was a master starting, and then I ended up feeling confident enough to go to open, and then changing around some of the categories for me as my body kept on changing and transforming. Now, there are some categories, for example, a sports model or a classic figure, if you already do regular figure, that you can add in, and it's not like you've got to change your body completely, but you've got to change up here, because each category has their personality and has their characteristics and has a different type of a T-walk or different kinds of motion and movement. So it allows you to get into those characters and be different from one to another. I went from doing local shows to then venturing out to doing national shows, the Olympia, then decided, oh, let's do international shows. So that was something new into the mix. All those are things that over a period of time, but you've got to start somewhere, and then you slowly build that up. That was my experience. I don't know what you can do that. You've gone
agree.
from one category to adding several as well.
And I mean, I think a little bit like life too, you don't want to stay stagnant. You know, it's a little bit like having a career and staying in that exact same career, same position for 10 plus years, and you're bored and you want elevation. So that's how I look at the categories. I personally have a favorite. I love women's physique because there's a little more creativity for me behind it with the different posing and the routines, which I spend way too much time, on for I overcomplicate it a little bit, but it's fun. Also too, your body changes over time.
Yeah.
And yes, while I might be right now the same weight that I was when I first started, we're close, I carry it differently and I look different.
Right.
But also too, with sport model, I love because I tried that for the first time this past year.
So much fun.
Incredibly fun. And you've got to be almost a little bit of like that cheerleader on stage.
Right.
And they all are so different. I love classic figure. That's one I'll probably always do. Just
So elegant.
It's
Yeah.
so elegant. So yeah, I think you try them and you see, and then that's how you decide. I gravitate more towards this one. I also think it's good to cross over because not all shows do all categories.
Oh, okay.
So if you're crossing over into different organizations, they don't always all offer women's physique. So you might do figure, or they might not offer it as a pro. So once you're a pro, you can't step back to amateur, depending on the organization in a certain period of time.
Gotcha.
All that thing. So yeah, the crossover's fun.
So has posing come easily to either of you, or
Never.
No, me too. I'm like, wait a minute.
I was a tomboy growing up.
Me too.
I wasn't a dancer. I wasn't a gymnast, and so I don't have that natural grace. And people beat themselves. I see people beat themselves up about it all
100%.
the time. And I'm like, I think it's a never-ending learning process. It's the flip of a wrist. It's the turn of a foot. It's the turn of a shoulder, the smile, the lift. It's everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's ever perfect. And proof of that is we see so many people in the posing room who have been doing this for 12, 15 years, and they still practice.
Still have coaches, and they're constantly doing it. And that's one of the biggest things that I think newbies coming into the sport, and you can tell that when you are doing a show. They might have spent all this time in the gym, all this time on their nutrition, have just amazing bodies, but all of a sudden they just don't know how to present themselves on stage. And that is so, so important. Or they got a lesson a week before, or backstage, okay, what do I need to do? And you can so see that and so tell that. And so if you are going to spend the amount of time in the gym, in the kitchen, with a coach, you've got to get that posing. And that doesn't mean the week before. It actually means even up to, I will pose every so often, just even knowing that I'm not going to compete for another year in something, just to keep that up. For women, it is so difficult, for example, to figure out how to get your lats out. That can take months sometimes. Like, wait a second, come out, look in the mirror,
Right.
come out. No, and it just takes a while for that mind-muscle connection.
Correct.
Once you get it, that's great. But as you were saying, the flip of the wrist, the shoulder, which angle to work on. And that's something that you've got to start months out. It doesn't mean you need a coach every week, but you need to have a class, figure out what it is that you need to do, and then maybe the next month, but usually about 2 or 3 months out, I would say every couple of weeks. I mean, you should be practicing on your own, even if it's 15 minutes each day, but you need some of that help from a opposing coach or so. For those, by the way, who want to just start, have never thought about it, I would definitely say, give it a try. There's a lot to it. And so that's why I would encourage you, if you're in California area, March 16th, there is an amazing INBA, PNBA. They do it every year. It's in the Corona area. There is a workshop for athletes, for trainers, because it's very important for the trainers to be able to know how the judging criteria works, to be able to tell their athletes what the judges are looking for. There's also a posing clinic that'll go along with there. A week later, here in Dallas, on March 23rd, we are doing an open and free posing clinic. Well, it's posing as well as athlete clinic, just about the INBA, PNBA, how you can join, what the judges' criteria are, and we're doing some posing along with it. So please check it out, even if you're thinking, it's something that I might like to do. And of course, we will promote. There's some shows coming up in Atlanta. There's a first show in Virginia is going to be this coming month. There is a new show in August 10th in Tulsa. My show, the Mr. Miss USA, which I'm super, super excited about, which will be June 29th, and we've got some amazing things planned for that. And Suzanne, you're going to be here as well.
I am.
With a vendor booth. So if you're interested in those B3 bands and what they can do, she'll be out there, and she'll even be able to show you, and you'll be able to try them on and do a little bit of sort of play around with them as well. So there are lots of shows coming up. There's one in Nebraska, I think, as well. That's in September. Tons of stuff, really good stuff.
It's a great show.